So Ephraim doesn't like pulling people in.
Ephraim doesn't like being told what to do.
I brought you into this cave. I can take you out.
Alright, fine. I'll pull someone in. And... chunk.
You bring in a cat as well.
I don't know, but it seems like we have a stray. Welcome to the Delegation of Dreamers.
Hi.
Hi there, you're a smaller one, aren't you?
I mean, well, yeah, but I mean, most people are bigger than me. I'm sorry, but where am I this time?
You are in the realm of forgotten memories and dreams.
Oh, well, that makes sense. Okay. I wondered why there wasn't many cushions, but that would explain it.
I do believe that those rocks next to you are of the softer variety.
That'll do then, yeah. Because I figured if it was a pocket dimension what I'd made, I would have put more cushions in it.
Now, I'm sorry, going back to what you said, what do you mean this time?
Well, it's just the sort of thing that happens to me. Like, you go for a walk, you walk into a thing, you wake up. There's a weird person there being like, "Oh, welcome to the dimension of fires." Well, no, that wasn't a rock that time. That was that Cambion lady. I didn't like that dimension either. I'm just saying it's the kind of thing that happens. You get used to it.
You just randomly stroll into other dimensions.
Well, not like on purpose. You just, you're trying to go about your day, and then, you run aground or you hit a rock, and you wake up and everything's a bit weird, and you're just like, oh, I'll just go along with it, I guess. If you wait long enough, you wake up again, and then everything's back to normal.
So, sure, you should probably introduce yourself before asking questions. My name is Ephraim, by the way.
Hi, I am Cantrip device, but my friends call me CanCan, so I suppose you can call me CanCan, because you haven't tried to kill me yet, which I think makes you friends.
I am glad to make a new friend. My name is Rue.
Hi.
And as my green friend over here said, I am Ashura.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
So you, always here, just, in this world?
I sometimes go and hop around to other worlds, but for the most part, yes.
Nice.
I have a question, because I just noticed you have an eye that seems to be magical. Could you tell me how you came to be with that eye?
Well, I mean, it depends if you want, the whole story or the short story, because the short story is that my friend helped me to make a new one because I gave my eye to a witch. But the slightly longer story is that we found an eye, attached to a crocodile while we were on a river, and we wanted to have a look at it, so we poked it a bit. Well, I poked it a bit, and we broke it. And that eye turned out to belong to a witch. And it seemed like the fair thing to do would be if I gave her one of mine in return, because she was very sad that we'd broken her eye. So she had my eye, and then I was down an eye for a bit. So I made a new one out of magic, and also mainly metal.
Did you say that the witch's eye was just lying around?
Or no, she attached it to a crocodile and then did spells so she could see out of it while the crocodile was going to places.
As one does.
To sort of find out what the crocodile does during the day.
I think so, or possibly to see where we were going, but I don't know. I mean, she definitely couldn't see out of it after I poked it a lot with the spiky thing, which is why she was quite upset.
We should do that to our kobolds.
I'm not sure if we want to know where our kobolds go.
Also, if you take your eye out and put it on someone else, you can't close your eye if they've gone somewhere not very nice. And if you've got two eyes in two different places, it makes you feel really sick.
Oh, I can imagine.
Yeah.
So, when you're not making bargains with witches, what do you usually do?
I mean, before I was going on adventures, then it was mostly making things. But then now it's going on adventures and doing whatever seems like the sensible thing to do, which is, it kind of varies, but it's like trying to help people out and do stuff and make sure they're okay, and mostly trying to stop the evil god from taking over the world, and also, trying to make sure that none of my friends do anything too stupid or die again, or both.
Okay, few questions there. First off, what made you switch from making things to adventuring?
I mean, I didn't really stop to think about it for that long. It was just like, I didn't have my mum and dad anymore, and my friends had gone. So I was just like, I guess I'll follow them, because I thought that would be more fun. So I made a flying machine and I flew out over the wall.
Over the wall?
Because where I'm from in Maker's Glade, it had a wall and then we blew it up, so it doesn't really have a wall anymore. But it had a wall at the time that I flew out over it.
Why did you blow it up?
That was when we went back, because I wanted to go back to try to see if I could get anyone else to be free to do what they wanted to do rather than what someone else says you should do. And we didn't entirely mean to blow all of it up, but we did in the end blow most of it up.
So was that wall there to prevent people from getting out?
Well, sort of. It was more like, it was always said like, oh, there's a wall so that you're safe and you don't have to go anywhere, but also if you try to go somewhere, we will stop you. But it's fine because you don't want to, do you? And then usually they would stare at me until I stopped looking at the wall and trying to go over it. You know, like when someone tells you what they want you to say and it's not what you want to say, but you know it's what they want you to say.
I know precisely what you mean.
Don't you look at me like that.
You mentioned that you have an evil god that is trying to take over the world.
Yeah.
That seems kind of ominous.
I mean, it's definitely not ideal. I guess it's what happens if you're a god or in charge of stuff, because it seems to be what happens if you're in charge of anything, is that people seem to go like, oh, wouldn't it be really good if I was in charge of everything? Which is wrong, because, you shouldn't be. But yeah, there's an evil god that's trying to turn everything into mould and also ruin. Not a fan of that.
And people worship this god?
I mean, some of them do. It's difficult, isn't it? Because, like, it's the god of recycling and stuff. Because everything's got to die eventually. And it might as well get reused and turned into other stuff. But it probably shouldn't all get turned into, like, mould and rotten things in the meantime. And also then resurrected into undead armies of orcs from the past, made out of bones. That doesn't seem like the good kind of recycling to me.
No, that's definitely not good.
No, you make a good argument against recycling.
Yeah.
There's some good recycling.
Yeah. Like, if you make a thing and then it falls apart, you can use the bits to make another thing. But if you make a person and then they fall apart, you probably shouldn't use their bones to make another person. That's a bit weird.
It's an interesting analogy. So, you seem to be the tinkering sort. Have you made a thing, I think they're called a steel defender?
Ah, yeah. I made a Frobisher. He's my friend.
Ah.
He mostly newts at things until they fall over. Or until he falls over. Normally it's till he falls over, but he's very good at it.
I was just wanting to see if all the tinkering sorts that I've met are the same with that, or if it's just a couple of them. One made a small dragon friend out of metal, and I was curious if they're all the same or if they're different, because they were the second person I met who made a dragon out of metal.
Oh no, mine's a big penguin.
Ah.
I'm sorry, what is a steel defender?
He's a big metal friend, and when people try to hit me, he tries to stop them and then he hits them back.
Sounds kind of useful.
It's very handy.
Something else I've just noticed is you seem to have a very special hammer there. Is that the soul of a marrow in it?
Yeah, it's Mr. Hissy.
Hmm.
He likes hitting things and hissing at them.
Ah, how did you come about that?
Well, we met a nice bird who was selling things, and I'd lost my old hammer, which used to smell of garlic, because some ghosts ate it. So I was looking for a new hammer, and the nice bird man was like, do you want to buy this hammer? So I did.
Ah.
You just randomly had a hammer that had a soul in it.
Yeah, I mean, he had lots of weird things, but one of them was a hammer with a soul in it. But I asked Mr. Hissy, and he mostly wants to just hit things and hiss at them. And luckily that's mostly what I want to do with a hammer. So we get on quite well. He's my friend, and he gets lonely at night if I don't keep him close by.
Ah.
He doesn't like being too far away. And he likes to be tucked up in bed.
You have any other interesting items, or is that the most interesting one?
I mean, it depends what sort of thing you think is interesting. I've got all sorts of things in my bag, but it depends who thinks, like, because if you want to swap things for other things, then mostly people want the shiny rocks, but they're quite hard to get out of the biting purse, which I call bitey. But then, if you want things that are just, like, interesting for their own sake, then I've got magic beans, which do magic things. They're quite fun.
What's up with the biting purse?
Oh, we found it in another witch's house, which didn't have a witch in it, because she was gone. You put things in it, and if they're high enough value, then you can't get them out with being bitten, unless you're really quick. Which is what my friend Smoral does. So every time we need to get something out of the purse, Smoral has to get it out, because otherwise it bites you. I call it bitey.
You come across a lot of witches' houses.
Yeah, it was mostly because we went in and out of the same swamp. We didn't mean to, but we were trying to find out what was happening to Honoria's mum. So we thought we'd go to where the person who stole Honoria's mum had been last, and then we found a lot of ghosts and some witches. And then we ended up going back again, and we found some more witches and a biting purse.
Did you say that your previous hammer started smelling like garlic after it was eaten by a ghost, or was it eaten by a ghost because it was smelling like garlic?
I don't know if it was because Mr. Stinky smelled like garlic, but the ghost definitely ate it, but it smelled like garlic before. But it smelled like garlic because I thought it was really funny. And then I threw it at a ghost and the ghost ate it.
It sounds like a tasty hammer.
Yeah, it was a good hammer.
I bet it was.
You mentioned someone called Inoria and how you were looking for their mom.
Yeah.
Is that one of your party members?
Yeah, so at the moment, well, at least I think she still is, because we haven't seen her for a while, but she's with her mum now, and she's in Lake Slumber where it's safer. Because we went on a mission to find her mum, and then it turned out her mum was in charge of a church for a bit, so that was okay. But then there was like an undead ghost man stole the body of the leader of another church, and then stole Honoria's mum. So then we had to go and get Honoria's mum back. Because you can't just steal someone's mum. That's not allowed.
It is quite rude.
It's very rude.
Yes. Can you tell us a bit about other party members that you travel with?
Yeah, so there's Smoral, who's a halfling, and he does silly things, and I have to make sure he doesn't hurt himself. There's Varanus, and they are dragonborn, and they're good at hitting things mostly, and also good at reading. Mainly good at hitting things and reading things. And Rex is a big lizard, and Rex is good at finding things and likes collecting teeth.
And how did you meet these party members?
I crashed into them out of the sky by accident.
What do you mean you crashed out of the sky?
It was when I made the flying machine to escape over the walls, except I didn't invent how to land the flying machine, I just invented how to make it fly. If you twiddled the handle fast enough, the top span around, so then it would lift up. But then I wasn't sure how to make it stop without crashing, because if you stop twirling the handle, then the top stops spinning, and then you fall out the sky. And I fell out the sky and crashed on them. And then I panicked because I thought I might be being followed, so I hid underneath Varanus's robes.
That's one way to get down.
It definitely works. Like, if you make a thing that only flies if you spin the handle, and then you stop spinning the handle, you will come down quite fast, with a bit of a crash.
That must have left a lasting impression on them.
They haven't got rid of me yet, so I presume so, but in a good way.
Yes. I would assume that if it left a negative impression, they would have probably let you know. Another question for you. What is the name of that god? Going to be blunt, it seems that they are watching you.
Yeah, that's Mulch.
Mulch.
Yeah.
Trying to remember if I know anything about this god. If I could, I would probably make them stop watching you for a while, but that seems a bit out of my capabilities at this moment.
That's alright. You get quite used to people watching you.
Yes, but it's uncomfortable having a god looking into another world. It seems they've got something watching you.
It's now you have to get in the bath. Because when we were talking to the cardinal of the church, he was saying he kept scrying on us, but not when we was in the bath. So I imagine that even a god would stop looking if you got in the bath, because that would be rude.
Well, no, gods are notoriously perverted. They love to be everywhere and watch everything.
Yeah, that's why I don't have baths too much. Can't trust them.
Hmm. Well, have you happened to get in any trouble on your adventures?
I mean, most of what we do, but definitely most of what I do is get in trouble.
It wouldn't be an adventure if there wasn't trouble.
Exactly. Sometimes it's the kind of trouble where everyone's like, oh no, CanCan, what have you done this time? Why did you lick that thing? That definitely wasn't for licking. Oh dear, now there's a giant purple worm chasing us. And sometimes it's more like, oh no, now the entire kingdom wants to find us and or kill us. Probably both. And sell our heads back to the church. So like, trouble's relative.
Both of those sound absolutely horrible, I will say. You're probably on the run from the kingdom then? Or are they not looking for you directly?
I think it's more like they're not looking for us, but if they happen to find us, they certainly wouldn't be adverse to handing us in return for probably quite a lot of gold. At least I think that's what they were trying to do the last time they met us. But then we might have accidentally killed all of the guards in the tower and hidden them under the floor.
Well then, that's one way to do it.
I mean, they started it, so,
That is fair. The last time I had to get away from a nasty situation with guards, it ended up with one of my friends fireballing them, and then we had nothing but charred corpses. So at least you did something to hide it.
Exactly. You see, I mean, even if you char them, you could still put them under the floor. Just, more charcoaly.
Yes.
Well, the problem is when the floorboards start smelling like bacon.
Yeah. That's why you have to run away before anyone notices. And then by the time they lift them up, then they're like, why is there all these dead guards under the floor? And you're like, I don't know. Except you're not, because you're not there. You've gone somewhere else by then.
What did you and your party members have in common? Like, what bounded you together?
Mostly just sort of like being in the same place. I mean, we sort of started off that we all thought that maybe the way that things was working wasn't the best way for them to be. And then now the whole being a group of wanted criminals kind of, helps. But also, if you spend enough time with the same set of people and also resurrect one of them from being dead twice, you kind of have to stay friends with them. But mostly, I think it's that we all think the same sort of thing, that like people ought to be allowed to pick what they want to do in life, not just do what the church tells them to or what someone else says they should do. Like they ought to be allowed to have a think about it and then decide.
So, what was the church trying to enforce?
Oh, they're in charge of everything. So like, if you want to make stuff, then you have to be part of the Church of Cog, which I was in. Or like, if you want to be involved in money, you have to be part of the Church of Argon. But it's also like, it goes the other way. So like, if you're a half-orc, then you have to be part of the Church of Mulch, and you're not allowed really to be in most of the places in the kingdom because of history. And that just doesn't seem very fair. Like, why shouldn't people be allowed to, pick what they want to do and not have to decide or get it decided for them because of a church?
I believe I agree with that way of thinking. Why should people have to have things decided for them? It would be much better if everybody was choosing what they did.
It's like making stuff. It's easier to make something if it already wants to be a thing. And like some people just naturally want to be the sort of person that makes some sort of thing or does a sort of thing. So you should just let them be able to choose. Like some people are really good at, I don't know, like making bread. And so that means that the shape they want to be in is like the shape of someone who makes bread. So you should let them choose.
I don't know. Look at the kobolds, for example. They need someone to tell them what to do, otherwise, they'll just go insane and do all sorts of mischievous things.
I suppose in some cases people do need some guidance, but not directly being chosen for. Most of the kobolds like to work for us.
Yeah.
And there's the cat that we brought in.
I mean, I had been meaning to ask why you had a cat, but, my friends always tell me it's not polite to ask too many questions.
I have two myself, but that one I believe might have been a mistake when we pulled you in.
I mean, it's not mine. I could probably take it with me.
Yes.
So, What do people do for fun in I totally lost the name of the place. Maker's Glade. Are you okay?
Yeah, I think I've made a new friend. I mean, in Maker's Glade, we didn't do very much for fun, but in the rest of Free Rockmark, like, people are super into pitcraft, which is what we did for a bit before the whole being criminals thing. So, like, watching the organised fighting.
I thought pitcraft was a form of mining.
It does sound a bit like it, doesn't it? It's when you get 2 teams of 4 people and then they fight against each other, and whoever's got the most people still alive at the end of it wins. Like, there's a whole tournament, and at the end of it, the grand champions get to win and meet the king. And we were going to try and do that, and we were doing really well at it. And then we had a run-in with one of the other churches, and it went slightly wrong. And yeah, we can't do that now. But some of our friends are still playing, and that's quite fun. It's more fun to play, I think, than to watch. But some people are really into watching it.
Sounds like a fun sport.
Yeah, but it also turned out that it was a front for, well, not a front. It's still a sport, but also they want to use it to make like a giant sacrifice of the people who've got the most kills at the end of it to raise the undead orc army. So, I mean, it slightly puts you off a thing when it turns out that's why.
There's always going to be bad sides with organized sports.
Yeah, it's just that you don't normally expect them to be an undead army.
Yes.
Yes, why are they trying to summon undead army?
I think that just goes with the whole thing of organized sports.
I know of a sport called soccer from one world, and it doesn't have any ties to raising undead armies. You just have to have feet to be able to play it, unfortunately.
I don't think feet are evil.
Yes.
They're quite useful.
Is that the game where you sucker punch someone?
No, it's soccer is where you kick a ball from one area of a playing field to another and hit it into a net.
Why is it called soccer then?
I think some other people call it football, but the specific area of the world calls it soccer, and that's the one I've been studying.
I mean, football feels more logical because it's like you get the ball and you kick it with your foot.
Shouldn't it be kickball?
Yeah.
That actually also sounds much more logical than soccer.
But are you allowed to sucker punch your competitors in it?
You're not allowed to, but some people still do.
All right.
Only if you don't get caught.
Then I'm satisfied with the name.
That sounds like a sport that Baroness would like. They're very good at punching.
Let's see. So you played in Pitcraft, found out it's a front for sacrificing for the undead army. That probably has to do with mulch.
Yeah.
Do you have a criminal record?
I mean, only technically. On account of, the whole doing things that the rest of the churches don't like. So then they're like, oh, you did heresy. And also you escaped from Maker's Glade and we didn't want you to do that, so that's heresy as well. So now you're a criminal. But I don't think it makes me a bad person.
Casual heresy, I see.
Yeah. Not like organised heresy. I'm not really good enough at things to be organised. And there was the time we broke into the prison and then broke out again with Honoria's mum, and they probably didn't like that very much. That feels like the kind of thing they'd record.
So you broke in and got caught?
Yeah, we didn't do a very good job. We did a good job of breaking in, but not of not getting found once we got in.
But you did make it out.
We did. It was really impressive.
Yes. And how do you do at parties?
I don't think I've ever been to a party, but I think I'd like parties. I think they'd be fun, because you get to, like, talk to people and see what they like, and there might be fun things like green drinks.
I mean, have you ever done anything at a tavern? That's pretty close to a party.
Oh, that is quite like parties. There was a time when we had a drinking game, and I nearly won the drinking game, and then we both passed out at the same time. And then we had kebabs, and then we woke up in prison. That was fun. I liked that time.
Any idea on the process of getting blackout drunk and then ending up in prison?
Well, no, there's definitely a missing bit in the middle there. I just remember the bit in between where there was definitely drinks. And then there was a different tavern and there was more drinks. And then we were in a prison. It was very strange.
Sounds like a strange yet fun time. How did you get out of that prison?
We were going to do very clever things, and we were trying to work out because it was one that sort of twirled around. And we got all ready to have like a big fight and cleverly sneak our way out. And then we managed to get into the guards' room, smashed a window, and climbed out through that instead. Just ran away.
That's one way to do it.
I mean, it worked really well because once we'd taken down the main prison guard and smashed the window, we were able to smash the other windows, and then everybody got out through the window.
Seems to be a faulty design in the prison then.
Yeah, I don't think anyone had entirely expected us to just charge the door into the guards' quarters and then just, break a window and run away. Worked, though.
I think there'd be bars outside the window.
Yeah, but apparently not on the bit where the guards go, because I guess they don't want to feel like they're in a prison when they're relaxing.
They are in a prison.
Bad design, though.
Yes, very bad. Faulty design. 1 out of 10. Would not recommend.
Do you know why there isn't any windows in a cave?
Is it because there's nothing to look at because you're in a cave?
No, it's because it wouldn't feel like a cave if there were a bunch of windows in it.
I suppose that would make sense. Then it would feel like a house, and it wouldn't be very cavey.
Yes. And I have one more question. Have you heard of this thing called, I will say it like the commoners say it, milkshakes?
I haven't, but is that what you get when you take a cow and shake it around?
No, it's a mixture of cow's milk and frozen milk with some sugar, some flavorings like maybe berries or other fruits. Wow, that cat is quite talkative.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I'm not sure if it wants a milkshake or if it's just sort of wants to join in with the conversation. I don't really speak cat.
I would prefer a shaken cow.
Yeah, I mean, I presume if you don't have any currency, the quicker way to do it would surely be to get a cow and go somewhere really cold, and then shake it about, and then put it in the cold for a bit.
Mm-hmm.
I think the cat agrees. I think that's what that means.
Sounds like it.
So that or the cat highly disagrees, but is trying to be polite about it.
It's quite hard to tell if you can't talk to them.
I think the cat is telling us it's time.
Yeah.
Yes, he does seem to have some strong opinions.
And I think he wants to go with you.
It's fine. I'll get Rex to ask what it wants.
Perfect. Then I think we will let you and your new kitty friend go.
Yeah, it was very nice to meet you. Have a nice time in your dimension, I guess.
Yeah, it was nice meeting you too.
A pleasure.
Enjoy your new cat.
Thanks. I'll put it somewhere safe.
I would not suggest in Bitey.
No, I think if I put it in the bag, it might be a question of who wins. Survival of the fittest in there.
Have a good awakening.
Perfect. Also, I don't think I need any sound effects for a cat.
She does provide her own. Don't you?
Yeah.
Little noisy.
Meow.
Mrs. Noise.